Hello, Kevin.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
I haven't seen you for a while.
Far too long. Yeah.
Okay, so I thought it would be nice if we come on and kind of speak about what happened to your lung and how did you end up with collapsed lung in the hospital?
Yeah. It's been a bit of a hectic week. So obviously we're opening the new space in Ennis in like 3 weeks from now, and it's been a really hectic time. So I went last week for an acupuncture session, just kind of for general stress and relaxation, sort of, and to align my channels and all that stuff. And that was grand, and I did that, and I had some lung trouble many years ago, which I told the acupuncturist about, and that was fine anyway. And she stuck the needles in the wrists and in the ankles, and it was all very nice, and I could feel the energy flowing. And then kind of towards the end of the session, she said, actually, do you know what, let me put one in your chest. And she went, "Bwah!"
Did she really?
She did, yeah. And basically put a needle in my chest and put it too deep. And obviously these are really fine little needles, so they can slide through muscle really easily. So she put it too deep, basically, and nicked my lung, which I didn't particularly enjoy. It was extraordinarily painful immediately when it happened. But as I have a habit of doing, and as I think like men have a habit of doing, I was like, I'm fine, this is grand.
So that was my next question.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to know, when did you realize that things have actually got serious and that you should probably go to the hospital? Because as I know, you didn't go to the hospital straight away.
No, well, I didn't realise I had to, because it was a bit painful, yes, but the acupuncturist kind of said not to worry, so I didn't worry, and that was grand. And I was in bed then that night, and I was lying there, and I was reading a book, and all of a sudden my lungs started going like popcorn, like in a pan, like pop, 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 like little explosions, kind of, for like 10 minutes, pop, 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 pop. And so at that stage I got a little bit worried. And yeah, then the following morning I took myself off into hospital. So yeah, it was a bit hectic, and it looked for a while like they would have to basically cut me open in my sternum and open me up like a butterfly, in order to get to it. But in the end that wasn't necessary, because it healed itself. But yeah, it was a really scary few days. And like obviously you were left here alone with Dannon. And it was kind of a strange thing to be in the hospital and not really be able to breathe very well, but like not really be in all that much pain, and just be kind of, the way when you're in hospital you're just waiting for doctors to come and scans to come back, and all the while, like, I mean, I felt fine, but also not fine. It was that weird kind of weird thing. So yeah, it was a bit of a shaking experience, right, for sure.
And just to come back to that part where you said that the option was there for them to open the sternum, and basically they moved you to surgical wing, and just kind of that was the option hanging in the air. But
yeah.
The other option, if your lungs have collapsed even worse, was something that you have already experienced. Will you tell us what?
Yeah, so that the opening the sternum is kind of like the nuclear option, like that's the worst case scenario. But the kind of the middle way, I guess, if the lung just hadn't healed itself, which it did, it just reinflated like a balloon. But if it hadn't, what they would have had to do was they would have had to crack open my ribs, and stick a pipe into me, and basically like there's a cavity there that is meant to be a vacuum, so that there's no air in there, but air has entered, so they need to suck the air out, basically. Called a chest drain, and I had one like 15 years previously, because this lung had collapsed all by itself when I was a kid, because when you're tall and thin and play a lot of sports the way I did at the time, it's just a thing that happens. So like the first time and this time when I was in hospital, it was like in like Grey's Anatomy or Scrubs or whatever, because literally like all the medical students in the hospital came down to kind of have a gawk at me. So I was sitting lying in my pajamas and a magnificent kimono, the one you gave me, And every few minutes, like a different medical student would come in and be like, "Ooh, collapsed lung, boy," which was fine.
Well, I'd love to know, how did that actually made you feel, knowing that you already had this traumatic experience in the past and that you were pretty much reliving it again? Like, honestly, how did that made you feel within you, not only physically? How did you feel?
I suppose, like, on the surface level, obviously it's scary, and it's stressful for, like, the various material reasons of, you know, the business needs me and you guys at home need me, and it was stressful in that sense and scary, like, to lose the confidence that your, like, basic bodily functions, like your heart beating and your lungs expanding, is gone away, whereas, like, in question. So yeah, it was scary and it was stressful, but it was funny. Like, when I was in the hospital, it kind of very much brought me back to, like, the immediacy of, like, the fact that, like, I was in a, as you know, a really bad car crash, like, a few years ago, and I had this kind of immediacy for a while after that of, like, actually, like, you might not make it to tomorrow afternoon, you know, and that nothing is, like, given, I guess. So yeah, so I very much had that in the hospital, and, like, beneath the fear, or maybe the fear was beneath, kind of as an undercurrent, but, like, within, like, my experience of being in the hospital and interacting with people and, like, moving through the world in that way, like, I found that because I had been so, like, stressed and busy and kind of maybe not so present because it was, things were pulling at me in different directions, all of a sudden, like, none of those things that had been pulling at me were able to pull at me anymore. And so all of a sudden, like, there were people standing in front of me, doctors, or, like, also, like, the people working in the cafes and stuff, and I found, like, really great joy in kind of connecting with them. Which was, like, actually, like, a really beautiful experience. Like, I was saying it to you when I got home, you know, that I was just kind of floating through the place, just, like, having a great time interacting with all the people I was interacting with, just on their merits, kind of, I don't know. So yeah, it was scary, but it was also, like, I went out outside. I had been inside for, like, 3 days, and they didn't let me out because I was connected to oxygen, so they didn't let me outside the bed for a few days. And, like, I stepped outside, and I was in Portiuncula in Ballinasloe, as you know, and, like, Ballinasloe is not a picturesque town, you know, it's not going to be a UNESCO World Heritage Site anytime soon. But, like, I stepped outside, and, like, really and truly, like, I was so moved by the fact of just being outside, like, you know, and, like, being able to walk outside and, like, being on a trajectory upwards rather than a trajectory downwards, like. So it was, and it's kind of almost corny, like, particularly in a format like this, and, like, you know, to be like, oh, it's actually, like, a really, like, a beautiful blessing, but actually, like, it kind of was in that way, in the sense that, like, I hadn't been capable for, like, the night before I was checked out, they let me go for, like, just an evening walk, and I walked out of the hospital and down, like, the main street of Ballinasloe for, like, 30 minutes maybe, and I was listening to music in my AirPods, and I was just, like, it was like a scene from, like, I don't know, like a movie that wouldn't get made so corny, like, just walking along, like, this massive with the patient thing on, and, like, my pajamas and a coat, you know, like, and just, like, I'm alive, you know, and, like, really, like, vibrantly alive. It was class. In that way, it was class. I loved it in that sense. Like,
yeah,
you know.
It's so funny how these things put other things very much in perspective.
Totally, yeah.
So that would be my next question. Knowing that you are a Buddhist and you have a sadhana practice of some sort, a little bit less since Danan came, but nonetheless you do have the sadhana practice and practice of yoga and all of that. I'm wondering, did any part of that help you, and how did it help you, if it helped you, during your time in the hospital, or yeah, sometimes in the hospital I think time just goes painfully slow. And yeah, was there any practices from your own personal practice with yoga and Buddhism that actually helped you?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, yeah, I think, like, I meditated a good bit, and I listened to Thai Thich Nhat Hanh speaking, like just in the AirPods a bit, and went and visited the chapel down there in the hospital, like, just to sit, because I'm in like a daily sitting group, the one that started like 2 days before I went into hospital, like a kind of an accountability group for people in the like Plum Village Sangha to try and build the habit of sitting every day. And so I tried to sit, just for like 5 or 10 minutes, so that was all very beautiful. I think, like Tai says, the like present moment, beautiful moment, and actually the acupuncturist had said to me, well, she said two things to me. First of all, she said that you've got too much yang energy and not enough yin energy. So basically that,
She
like,
made sure to fix it.
yeah. Basically, like, you don't chill out enough. You don't be still enough. So then she went, bah! And that stilled me a bit. But also she had this beautiful lesson from Pema Chodron, and which was that, I'll give you the short version, but basically, that there was this little girl walking through the jungle one day, and she was wandering along foraging for her breakfast, and that was grand. And then the next thing, she saw a tiger just on the other side of the clearing, and the tiger was coming at her. And so she turned and she ran. She was running through the jungle. And that was grand. The trees started fading away, clearing out, and she was saying, "Okay, great, I'm escaping. That's great." And then all of a sudden there was a cliff, and behind her was the tiger, and in front of her was the drop. And so she had no options. But all of a sudden, then there was a vine going down the cliff. So she started climbing the vine, and about halfway down, the vine ran out. And so she was hanging there with the tiger above her and the drop below her. And she looked to her left, and then she looked to her right. And what did she see? She saw one single wild strawberry just growing in the cliff face. And so she reached over and she ate the strawberry. Mm-hmm. And so the acupuncturist told me this like 10 minutes before she hit my lung. And there's no end to the story. It's just like the idea that like you can be falling out of a helicopter and your what's it called? Parachute doesn't work, and like casting ahead even a second or two, that's pretty bad news, Yeah. But like if you're right there in the moment, then you're in space. That's awesome. That's so cool. So like I tried to have that, and I tried to experience it like fresh, and like I think a lot of the relationships with like the porters and the people working in the cafe and stuff were that it was very fresh, I guess. So that was beautiful. Yeah, that was nice, and I think that really got me through it. Like I think I could have spiraled a lot in terms of like the stress and the fear and the overload of like everything, just the existentialism of it. Well, and I know you're asking me questions, but like I obviously was in the hospital with all the doctors and everything. And kind of in the middle of the hurricane, sort of, but you were at home with Darren, not knowing what was going on. And I'm quite curious, we haven't actually talked about this, like, how was it for you to lean on your practice in that time?
Well, I wasn't really leaning on my practice, because I think I was severely in a panic fight or flight mode. I think that second to second changes from, oh, I think I'm okay, it might heal itself, oh, I'm in a surgical wing and it might be a major surgery, which we speak about like 6 to 8 weeks of recovery and stuff like that. And then also I think the fear of, obviously, what if you die? Like,
yeah.
I think in that sense I didn't really manage to have a practice, especially because I was also running on a very low here at home, running on 3 hours sleep, and with Danan, who is like super attached to me and all of that. So I didn't have much of a practice apart from, which is also a great deal of practice, apart from leaning on the Sangha, on community, reaching out to Sangha and asking if they can light the candles and send metta your way. I did touching the earth a few times, which also helped me just come back to this moment and realize, okay, I have this little baby, I need to do something with him first, and then we can panic, kind of thing.
Because he doesn't hit pause.
Yeah, he doesn't hit pause. Yeah. But I think I didn't have much of a practice, and I think in the past I would beat myself up for it. Why I wasn't able to sit still, why I wasn't able to find this, and the reality, like, it was windy from all sides, you know, and I'm not gonna beat myself up for it. I had the most wonderful practice for what the conditions were, and I'm grateful for even that little part that got me through it. But also just that realization, in Buddhism there is this thing where we're often asked to meditate on death, and it was weirdly beautiful realization that brought me to the point where I'm like shown how much gratitude I have for you in my life and for our life, and how much love and how much this. So that potential death note kind of from somewhere has actually amplified beauty in my life all of a sudden. And I think I understand that's why Buddhists meditate on death, because it just helps you really see the life in some beautiful, wonderful way.
It's funny, it's like, just as you were talking there, when we, let's say, have a disagreement or we feel disconnected or whatever, we have a practice where we hug for 3 breaths. It's from Plum Village. We hug for 3 breaths, and on the first breath you say to yourself internally, I'm here. And in the second breath you say, I see that you're here and I'm happy. And in the third breath you sit with the realization that you might not be here tomorrow. So yeah, it's funny, like, how, like, because that's such a, kind of, can be such an intellectual exercise, like, oh yeah, you might not be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
Obviously you will be, but like, to actually have the realization that actually you might not be here tomorrow does kind of it helps you, like, shed a lot of the annoyances or the frustrations or the kind of the hindrances and stuff, you know, because yeah, you might not be here tomorrow, so like, if this was our last day on earth, would I care about whatever it is?
So I'm just aware that we don't have too much time left, because we are doing this on borrowed time while our son is napping. So I just have one last kind of question, and that is that during this time we have agreed to ask for help from the community, and it was something that we kind of had to discuss, and it's something uncomfortable for both of us in so many ways, but we have done it, and this journey with asking for support from community has been really wonderful. So I'd love to know a little bit more about that. Just how do you feel, how did you felt, and how do you feel still to this day being held by community, and what would you say to them? And before you start saying anything, I just also want to say that community has saved me in, like, the hardest day of all of the days that you were in the hospital. I had my neighbor and my really friends that are living close by came here to help me with, like, simple things, holding Danan while I was able to chop the wood and carry the water, kind of thing. Literally, so that I'm able to, you know, more smoothly take care of him and myself as well. So yeah, the community has been just like such a big thing for us during all of this. So I'd love to know more about that from your side, and if you have also something to say to all of the people who stepped in.
Yeah, I mean, like, uh, obviously, like, there's the home sphere of like our neighbors and our immediate like community stepping in and helping in those like few days when I was in hospital, and I mean, Jesus, thank God for that. But then there's also like the studio, which is ongoing. Like, we continue to plan. We are going to open on the 13th of December in Ennis. And there continues to be a huge amount of work that needs to be done. And a lot of the physical preparation work, like, was like in my sphere, like it's my responsibility, and I'm just limited now in what I can do a little bit for a couple of weeks. And time continues to tick on, irrespective of my lung, and it's incredible, you know. Like, I keep on saying to people, it's like the last scene of It's a Beautiful Life, you know, where the guy who comes back from the dead and not to be too morbid about it, but the guy who comes back from the dead and has felt as though he's been, and I'm not saying that I have felt this, but the character felt as though he was unimportant to his community, saw actually how his community like really rallied around him when he needed it, and like his house was full of people, and they kept on, you know, contributing and giving and demonstrating love. And it's been like that, you know, because like the space is by myself a mountain, but like people have, you know, either offered their own labor or offered to cover classes if we needed that, or, you know, offered to come and help us paint the walls, and that's been really beautiful, you know. Like those material offers of support in the like the active way of, I see that you're there, and I'm happy that you're there, and I see that I can help. Yeah, it's really beautiful, and like I really like I'm not I haven't had the it hasn't been a strength of mine to delegate or to take on help in that way. Like, I kind of tend to try and do 7 things where I should only be able to do 1 or 2, and I really like this new space that's opening. I really want it to be like a meaningful like community space where everyone feels invested and part of this big project. Like, obviously we're running it and whatever, but like there's many teachers and many people who are going to take great value and solace and learning from their own practice within the space, and I really want that. And it's so beautiful that people have been active in that to make it happen, you know, because I think like definitely without the offers of help that we've had so far, and I'm sure that, I mean, as the days and weeks and months go by, I mean, many helpers will exist and come to the fore, and all will be very welcomed. But no, seriously, like, it's just so beautiful to feel held in that way. So yeah, so I mean, like, there's still a mountain of work to be done, but I think like we're climbing the mountain now with friends, which is cool. So
Exactly.
so yeah.
I'd love to say that our teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, we always refer him as to Thai, because in Vietnamese, Thai means teacher. Before he passed away, he has said that the next Buddha is going to be community.
Mm-hmm.
And really it has been wonderful, like, still to feel so supported and held and felt like that, like we're not just 2 people trying to do everything by ourselves. Everyone has been so kind, so generous with their words, their time, their messages,
100%,
you know, they're all such important things. And then up to the point where everyone has been so kind with, like, just tell me where, I'll clean, I'll paint, and I'll take the key, you don't even have to be there, kind of thing. Which has been
so nice.
Such a wonderful, magical, actually.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to leave it at this. Just all of this to say that there is still loads things going on in the studio, and if anyone feels like giving us a hand, we are in a stage and phase of our life where we happily, with gratitude, say yes. So yeah, please let us know if you can give us a hand between now and the 13th, because there's always going to be something to do. And yeah, we are hoping you are following the journey, and we'll see you next week for another chat.
Yes, yeah. We're gonna start doing this. I really enjoyed this, and we're gonna kind of keep on going and connecting and talking. And I mean, like, it's been so nice to sit down with you and just have a chat in this way.
Yeah.
Like, it really forces us to just be really present. So it's really cool.
It's
So yeah, so
it
if
was my idea.
it was most of the good ones are. So yeah, so see you next week, I guess.
Yeah.
Or see you sooner if you want to swing into the studio before next week. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you again.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
so much. It was good. I enjoyed it.